Kids, listen to the rap music. Kids, listen to the rap music.
I wanted to cover this for a super long time now. I just didn't know how I would do it. But, think of it as like a retrospective of some sort. I'll talk about the history of it, the history after, and, you know, everything that happened with it, and how I experienced it, how people experienced it, and just, you know, everything about it. But I don't hear many people talk about Flipnote anymore. It's a real shame, since it was a big part of my 3rd to 4th grade days, and I remember watching thousands of amazing Flipnotes within those 2 years. And yeah, there were some not so amazing ones as well, but we'll get into that in just a bit. Because before I cover the Flipnote community, we have to talk about the reason those Flipnotes even exist. Flipnote Studio was an application created by Yoshiaki Koizumi. Yeah, that dude. The general producer of the Nintendo Switch and a dude who had a big part in making all of these great games. It was released for free on the Nintendo DSi shop. And in Japan, it released on December 24th, 2008, and in other regions, it was on August 12th to 14th in 2009. It was originally supposed to be a note-taking app for WiiWare, known as Moving Notebook, and honestly, that just sounds way less cooler than Flipnote Studio, but I'm glad they developed it further. In Flipnote Studio, you were able to create animations with a limit of 999 pages to work with, and all you needed to do was use a DS stylus and some buttons. Pretty neat. You were also given a set of different tools, 3 different colors, and a really bad DSi microphone to record your voice or background music. These little animations were known as Flipnotes, and people were able to create some pretty crazy things, even with all the limitations the app had. Yeah, it's still hard to make a good-looking animation if you're not good at drawing, but Flipnote tried its best to make it easy for new people to get into. Something that helped out a bit were these pre-installed Flipnotes made by the developers, and they were just the best. You can mess around with them too, and make your own version of the demo Flipnotes, whether you add in new frames of animation, new audio, or just speeding it up and changing the colors, which many people did. I messed around with these things a lot, and yeah, I wasn't alone. Flipnote Hatena was right there for people to share their own creations, and once I figured that out, Flipnote Studio became more than just a cool little app to mess around in, and I was introduced to one of the biggest parts of my childhood.
Wow, what a beautiful day. Not again.
Flipnote Hatena was the online service for Flipnote Studio and was a major hub for people to share their own animations. And goddamn was I addicted to this. I spent hours upon hours looking through hot Flipnotes, recent Flipnotes, and most popular Flipnotes, which were the main ways to find Flipnotes. But there was also a channel section where you could find Flipnotes based on a certain topic. For example, there were things like the musical channel for music-related Flipnotes, and a Super Mario channel for Mario-related ones. I used to explore these channels from time to time and checked out the Sonic and Adventure Time channels a lot. One thing that happened every once in a while were animation contests, and some of these included Zelda and Mario contests for their 25th anniversaries. There were so many amazing entries, and I just remember wanting to be as good as those guys because I couldn't draw shit. I still made over like 150 shitty Flipnotes, but, you know, those are lost forever. Outside of contests, people just made amazing animations of almost anything. Everything was made into a Flipnote, and some were more common than others. The most common type of Flipnote was probably the animated music videos.
This is the best song ever made in the world. This is the best song ever made in the world. Other songs are good, even some are really good, but they are not the best songs ever made in the world.
Another thing that was common were the Flipnotes based off of existing media, like scenes from TV shows, or basically anything from YouTube, but mainly YouTube poops. These were probably the ones I enjoyed the most, just because at the time, some of these were just so funny to me and my friends. Oh, and yeah, my friends also enjoyed going on Flipnote Hatena all the time. At least my neighbors. 2 of my neighbors would come over to my house and either chill on my porch or go in my living room to watch Flipnotes while I also watch Adventure Time and Regular Show at the same time. Pretty crazy, I know. But the best part was sharing Flipnotes with each other. We searched for the best ones all the time, and if another person had a Flipnote we didn't have downloaded, we had to send it to each other with the Flipnotes wireless share feature. Eventually, we would start to make our own Flipnote collection. It was just the best. Sadly, I lost all the Flipnotes I've had in the past, downloaded onto my SD card because I guess I lost my SD card. Also, losing both of my DSIs didn't help. But there was one thing that I didn't like too much, and neither did, anyone else. And it was the main reason I had to dig through so many Flipnotes to find the good ones. And those were the spin-offs. So the spin-off feature. Most of the Flipnote community hated this, and yeah, I could agree for the most part. Before you would post your Flipnote to Flipnote Hatena, you were given a choice to make it locked or unlocked. If it was unlocked, people were able to download the Flipnote and edit it. But they were also able to republish it, and yeah, that was a big problem. It was kind of a similar issue to Little Big Planet's community when they had to face copy levels, and they still do to this day. But some dudes would literally put no work into making an already created Flipnote their own. They would either just change the color or the speed of the Flipnote and re-upload it as a spin-off. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I also did that when I was little, but I mean, why not, right? It might get a couple stars, maybe even a colored star for doing nothing at all. But there were also some dudes that would put work into these spin-offs, whether it's reanimating it, using Sonic characters or something, or even your own OC. Why not? There was a lot of OC spin-offs. I remember a lot of furry stuff. They were pretty well animated too, but I just usually skip those too. If it wasn't for the spin-off feature, the Flipnotes I saw over and over again wouldn't be as iconic and nostalgic to me as they are now. Because goddamn, dude, every single time I watch videos or cartoons from the early 2010s, I am reminded of the parts I saw in Flipnotes. If I hear something familiar, I'm just like, oh, hey, I heard that on Flipnote before, that's crazy! Also, those developer-created Flipnotes I was talking about were used in a lot of spin-offs too.
It's the fight of the Ronald McDonald. Nothing's trying to stop them from killing each other. And bang! And wow! There's a huge shockwave of energy. They're gonna kill each other till the end of time comes along. And la 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 la, la 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 la. Oh, looks like the black one just died. Ha ha ha.
And, yeah. It was a pretty cool feature overall, but it did overshadow some of the better flips most of the time. But hey, there has to be some kind of incentive for people to do this, right? People can't just be posting Flipnotes wanting attention and not getting anything for it, right? So I mentioned stars earlier, and I wanted to cover those a bit more. Stars were the rating system of Flipnote, and it doesn't really work the way you might think it does. It's not like rating Flipnotes a 5 out of 5 or something if you liked it a lot. It was actually a bit weird how they handled it. There were different colored stars people can rate your Flipnotes with, and people earn these stars in a number of different ways. Yellow stars were the most common since you had an endless amount of them, and you could really just spam a Flipnote all day long if you wanted to, including your own Flipnotes, which is pretty weird. I don't think it helped make your Flipnotes more popular if you spammed them, but honestly I can't remember. Probably not though. There were also colored stars, such as green, red, blue, and purple stars. You would earn these rare colored stars by getting featured in the weekly news, reporting bugs, or buying boxes. I don't really remember that box thing all too much, I don't know. I had to research that, and I don't really remember that. What I do remember, though, is having a red star, so I guess I got my Flipnote featured in the news before without even knowing. Pretty awesome. And what do you do with the stars? Well, you put them on Flipnotes, or you could buy themes for your profile, which was nice. Overall, it was a neat idea for a rating system, but it didn't work that perfectly. There were a ton of star-begging Flipnotes where they would just ask you for free stars to win a Nintendo Wii or something, I don't know. None of the stars or views really mattered in the end because soon, everything will end.
When Flipnote Studio 3D is released, these services will shift over to the two new communities I introduced today, and the two Flipnote Hatena online services will cease operations on May 31st, 2013.
In 2011, the Nintendo 3DS launched, so it meant that the DSi was already getting ready to go out the door. I mean, what can you really do with a DSi other than use Flipnote? There were also 2 shitty games that came out for it that nobody bought, but I bought one of them. Flaw? That was a good game. Totally. Anyways, Nintendo was ready to move on, and the Flipnote community was also holding out hope for a new Flipnote app for 3DS. They got nothing. For 2 whole years of the 3DS being out. Absolutely nothing. It wasn't until March 12th, 2013, where we got a Nintendo Direct Mini for Flipnote Studio. In this Nintendo Direct, they announced Flipnote Studio 3D. It had an online service called Flipnote Gallery World, which was a successor to Flipnote Hatena. Great! You had to pay for a 30-day pass to be able to use it. Okay, that's pretty weird and not cool. Even though Flipnote Hatena was ending, the Flipnote community could live on. It was announced that it would come out later that summer, and yeah, it came out in Japan, and it stayed that way for years. There was no word on the release date after it was moved to a to-be-announced release date until, BAM! It's released as a Club Nintendo exclusive. Wow! What joy! I mean, it's been 3 years since the announcement of Flipnote 3D, and 3 years since the end of Flipnote Hatena, and it's finally here? Whatever, I don't know, I don't care. Whatever, I could go 3 years without Flipnote. At least the new game's out, right? Yeah, it came out and there was no Flipnote Gallery World, and I was so upset. I waited 3 years to find out that everything I was promised in that Flipnote Direct would never come outside of Japan. And the only thing people pieced together was that it was probably Nintendo's fear of inappropriate content in the Flipnotes. And yeah, that's probably it. That's the main reason Swapnote got shut down. I wouldn't be surprised, but the final nail in the coffin happened this year. On April 2nd, 2018, Flipnote Gallery World ended in Japan. And it marked the end of Flipnote Studio with no sequel in sight. There are still community-driven servers for both Flipnote Hatena with Sudomemo and Flipnote Gallery World with Project Keiru. I probably said that wrong, but I dived a bit into Sudomemo, but after my SD card for my hacked 3DS stopped working, I just kinda gave up on it. As of now, though, Flipnote is gone for good. But like I said, hopefully there is a sequel in sight with the Nintendo Switch or something. It doesn't work as well as the DS, but I'll take what I could get as long as it has an online service. But goodbye, Flipnotes, for now.
Take a look in the kitchen, you can't find them, your chips are no more. No more Fritos, no more Twinkies, just some crumbs on the floor. Where's my cookies, where's my candy, the cupboard is bare. No more soda, no more Cheetos,